Welcome to this Trellix Spotlight series. My name is Geeta and I will be your host. Today's session will focus on discussing the all-new device manager and IPS-VX integration feature. This webinar will be recorded. If you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please feel free to disconnect at this time. A link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact Trellix Technical Support. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the Q&A window. This webinar may run longer or shorter based on your participation, and we recommend asking as many questions as you can to make the most of this series. If the Q&A window is not displayed, click the tab at the bottom of your session window and click on the QA icon. We will answer the questions during the final section of this webinar. If you experience any audio issues during the webcast, please stop and attempt to reconnect. Our presenters today are Vidya, Lakshmi, Vilvamani and Sandeep Pai. Vidya is the technical lead supporting Trellix IPS quality team and Sandeep is a senior software quality engineer with Trellix IPS team. Ladies and gentlemen, Vidya and Sandeep.
Thank you, Geeta. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandeep from IPS QA team. Today we will discuss about the IPS to VX integration feature, which has been introduced in 10.1 M10 release. So this is the agenda which I am planning to cover. First, we will discuss about the IPS malware engines. Followed by that, we will have an overview of the MVX. Then we will see the down selector logic. That is with addition of the VX, how does the current down selector logic look? Followed by that, we will see the IPS to VX flow. And then we will see the demo where we will configure the VX appliance and the IPS manager. And then we will simulate a use case where we will see the alert. That is, we will submit a file to the VX and we will see the alerts on the manager. Followed by that, we will see the troubleshooting steps. Coming to the IPS malware engines. So currently Sensor has three internal engines, that is the ALBL, IPS. When I say IPS, it is the PDF, Office and Flash engine, and then GAM. So these three can be categorized as internal engines, whereas TIS, that is Trellix Intelligent Sandbox, and GTA or TI can be set as external engines. So if you want to further classify them, we can say ALBL and GTA are hash-based engines which use the MD5 sum, whereas TIS, IPS and GAM are file-based engines. So coming to the VX, VX will support both hash-based lookup and file-based lookup. For hash-based lookup, it uses the SHA-256. And coming to the manager and sensor, both has to be connected to the VX over the HTTPS channel on port 443. And then the manager will be used for the configuration of the VX alert, that is a security alert, and even for the monitoring of the VX device here. So MVX is nothing but it's called multi-vector virtual execution. So Trellix VX product line, which does sandbox analysis, is similar to the Trellix Intelligent Sandbox. That is, the Trellix VX also does the sandbox analysis. So the existing VX customers can buy the IPS solution to add the additional capability to monitor their network. So VX should be reachable via IPS over the port 443. That is, both the manager and the sensor has to be connected to the VX on the port 443 on the SSL channel. VX supports both self-sign and CSI insert. In case of a CSI insert on the VX device, this certificate has to be deployed. VX can be configured with both IPv4 and IPv6 address. Currently on 10.1 M10 release, we just support IPv4 address for the VX device. VX supports both proxy and non-proxy environment. That is, we can place a VX appliance even behind a proxy server. Response verdict could be malicious, riskware, and non-malicious. That is, whenever a response comes from the VX side, it can be malicious or riskware. This malicious, we map it to the very high confidence on the IPS, and this riskware, we map it to the low confidence on the IPS. And this non-malicious is a clean file. So max file support on VX is 100 MB, while max file size for IPS is 50 MB. That is, whenever we submit a file from the sensor to the VX, it can be max 50 MB because though VX supports 100 MB, we are supporting on the IPS is 50 MB. File type support on IPS is a subset of the VX. So the file types which are support on IPS is support on the VX also. So that is, it's a subset of the VX basically. Coming to the VX platform, so VX 5500 being the low-end platform supports 11 submissions per minute. VX 12500 supports 60 submissions per minute. VX 12550 supports, being the high-end platform, supports almost 85 submissions per minute. Coming to the down selector logic, so whenever a file extraction happens on the sensor, first it will look whether the result is available on the allow list or prop list. So if the result is not available, then we will look for whether the result is available on the sensor cache. If the result is not available on the sensor cache, then it will be submitted to the GTA. If not GTA, then it will go to the IPS. If not IPS, then it will be submitted to the GAM. If not, GAM is not able to find the result, then it will be submitted to the MVX, and then after MVX, it will be submitted to the TAS. So assume if one of the engine returns low confidence result, right, then also the file will be submitted to the next engine according to the down selector logic. That is, say supposing if the IPS or the GAM returns a low confidence result, right, in that case also we will be submitting the file to the next engine as per the down selector logic. Coming to the IPS to VX flow, first both the sensor and the manager has to be authenticated with the VX on port 440. This is the first step. So then whenever a file extraction happens on the sensor, right? So the sensor will look for whether the result is available on its local cache. If the result is available, the file submission will not even happen to the VX. So it will be returning the result from the local cache itself. Assuming if the result is not available on the sensor, then it will do a SHA-2 query on the VX to get the verdict and the UID. Here the verdict is nothing but whether the file is malicious or non-malicious. UID is a unique identifier. So basically, the first SHA-2 query will be done on the VX to get the verdict and UID. Assuming if the SHA-2 query also is not able to find the result, only then we will do a file upload on the VX. That is, if the VX cache is not found, then we will do a file upload on the VX. So whenever we do a file upload, so a file upload response will come, which contains the UID. This UID is nothing but a unique identifier, which will be used to submit an alert on the manager. That is when an information alert will be given to the manager. That is when you see on the manager saying a file is submitted to the MVX engine. So once the file upload response comes, now the sensor will be having that UID, and sensor will try to poll for that report status for building its local cache. That is, sensor will try to poll the report status query like every 2 minutes, up to 30 minutes it will try to do it. Then manager also has the UID now. So manager also will start polling for the report query using the UID for every 5 minutes up to 30 minutes. So what happens is this is when the manager gets the response for the report query, right? That is, this is when the alert status changes from submitted to detected on the manager. Now let's go to the demo. So I have one CMS which is configured. I will log into the CMS. First thing is for the VX thing, we have to create a cluster. For creating the cluster, we first have to add a node. So right now already there is one node added. So this is the node which I have already added. This is the way you have to add a node. Go to the nodes and then just add a node. So where you will give the node name followed by the IP address of the broker, that is the VX appliance, and then the username and the password. So I've already created one node. 1071.93.130 is my node, which is that IP of the VX appliance. So then I'll rightly go to create a cluster. For creation of the cluster, we will say add cluster here. I'm creating a cluster saying demo cluster test. And I'm using the self-signed certificate. I'm not using the CSI insert. So if you need to CSI insert, then we have to deploy the cert on the VX appliance and we have to select it here. For this demo, I'm currently using the self-signed cert itself. And this is the node which has already been created. 1071.93.130 is the node which has already been created. As we can see, the cluster test has been created and demo cluster test has been created and the current status is busy. So if you go to the CLI of the VX, right, then we will be able to see it. So the cluster has been created. It says no broker node enabled on the cluster. So once we create a node and create a cluster, then we need to enable the broker as well. So I will just say enable broker. And the node IP is already selected over here. So now once the broker has been enabled, the status will go to busy. And once the status becomes ready, then the VX is ready for the file submission. So this will take a couple of minutes actually. We can see on the CLI the status as well. So currently it is saying busy. This will take a couple of minutes for the status uh, to get to ready actually. So basically we have to see the cluster health. So cluster health should be always ready for the file submission. If the cluster health is failed, then the VX will not be able to submit the files to the VX. Let's wait for a couple of minutes for the status to become ready over here. As you can see, the status is ready. So now the VX is ready for the file submission. And even here also we can see the demo cluster test status is ready, right? So it says the node has been added. The broker IP is 1071.93.30, and currently the OS version which we are using on the VX is 913. However, the IPS to VX integration is supported from 912 itself. So even if you have a VX with 912 also, the integration is supported. So now let's go to the IPS manager configuration. First, let me create a policy. I'm creating a policy saying demo test. And I'm just enabling the VX engine alone for this demo. I'm assigning the interface now. I have assigned the interface as well. I'm trying to push the policy right now. Before that, we will have one more configuration, that is MEX integration. So on the MEX integration, right? So this configuration, either this can be done via global page or via the individual device also. So currently on the global page, we have disabled the IPS, that is MEX integration. As we can see here, the VX integration, this can be enabled via globally also. So for this test, currently I will be enabling it via individual device. I'm giving my VX IP address. That is the broker IP address. The listening port is 443. And then I'm giving the username of the VX and the password. Since I have not used the CSI insert, right? That is that I'm using a self-sign insert, so I'm not enabling this checkbox. And my VX device is not behind proxy, so I'm not enabling this checkbox also. So we can, if your VX appliance is behind the proxy, then we have to enable this checkbox. So as we can see now, the manager to the VX connection has been successful and even sensor to VX authentication status is successful. So assuming if the cluster status is failed, right, at that point of time, we'll not be able to submit the files to the VX. So right now the cluster creation also is successful and even the authentication also is successful. So cluster creation we already saw on the VX appliance device. And now this is the connection between the manager to VX and sensor to the VX. So we have enabled via global level. So now let's deploy the policy which we had created to the device. It will take a minute or so. So we'll wait for a minute for the configuration to be pushed. As we can see, the deploy config is successful. Now let's go to the sensor and check a few of the CLA commands. So as we can see, we already connected sensor and the manager both to the VX. So we can check the status on the sensor CLA commands. So as we can see, it says show MEX status. The MEX engine status is currently connected. And if you can see the show MEX config, this is our IP address of the VX, that is a broker. And then we have the connection config is enabled. So what this is the username. We have not enabled the CSRT, so hence the status is disabled here. And authentication status is connected, and proxy also is disabled. So this MEX engine curl verbose is disabled. This is only for debugging. If you want to debug any such issues on the VX side, right? Only then we have to enable this. So I'll be showing this in the troubleshooting part. So these are the two outputs which we have to take, that is show MEX config and show MEX status, to see whether the sensor to VX authentication is successful or not. So now we will submit a file to the VX, and then we will see like alert details and report as well. So right now I'm trying to fetch a malicious file from the server. That is a collectmail.pdf is a malicious file. I'm trying to fetch that from the server. As we can see, the engine stats, right? The file submitted is 1, files processed is 1, and it's an unknown malware conference file. That means the file has been submitted to the VX. So how can we check whether it is submitted to VX or not? We can check. There is a command called show MEX stats, so which will tell us whether say first it has done. As I said, once the authentication is done, first the SHA-2 query has been sent. So since there is no SHA-2 cache response, then we have done a file upload here. As we can see, file submission request count is 1, file response is also is 1. So this is when you can see the alert on the NSM saying a malicious file has been submitted. So as we can see on the alert, right, this alert clearly says a file submitted to MEX for the analysis. So once this is been seen, right, we can check on the VX appliance whether the same file has been submitted or not. So let me log into the VX appliance over here. As we can see, I had submitted the collectmail.pdf file. So the same file has been seen on the VX device as well. So currently, as we can see, the status is running. That means the analysis is happening. So once the analysis is over, so this alert, whatever this submitted alert will be chained to detected. Based on if it is a malicious file, it will be chained to detected. So let's wait for the analysis to get over actually. Yeah, as we can see, the analysis has been already finished and the result it says malicious. So now if you go to the report here, right? So the report, as I said, once the manager gets the UID, right, it will be polling for the result status every 5 minutes. So on the next interval, right? So this submitted alert has to be changed to the detected. So let's wait for the submitter to change to detected. As we can see, the report status query, the sensor has already got the result, right? Because if you see the report request sent was 1, the response also it has received, and the report response is also successful is 1. So currently there is one file which is pending. There is the one result which has been pending. Like we see the submitted alert, right? So it is waiting for the next status to be updated over here. In the meantime, we can check for the traffic stats also, which has been newly added for the VX as well. So the command which I am giving over here, right, the show malware engine stats on the sensor, this can be seen even on the manager as well. So the same status, if you can see on the manager also on the on the individual device settings, and then go to the traffic stats. As we can see on the same MX counters, whatever we are seeing over here, right, it's been seen here as well. Actually, there is one alert, right? Unknown malware confidence 1 and alert generate is 1. So unknown and malware alert generate is 1, right? So as we can see, the same on the here also as well on the traffic stats. As we can see now, the alert has been already changed from submitted to detected. So that is what I was saying. Like once the once the manager gets the UID, it will be polling for the report query like every 5 minutes up to 30 minutes. So on the second interval, right, like we can see that the alert has been changed from submitted to detected. So now the same file, if we submit next time, right? So the result will be coming from the sensor cache. So how can we check that is I will be doing a clear stat over here. So right now, if you see there is show malware engine stats is 0 and show mix stats also is 0, right? So next time when I submit the file, the result will be coming from the sensor cache, not from the VX. As we can see, I just submitted the file. It says 1 and it already says high confidence. Last time it was unknown malware confidence and this time it is high malware confidence. And even if you see the show MEX stats, right, the all counters are 0 over here. That means first time the result came from the VX, the second time the result has come from the sensor cache. And even on the alert, if you see, right, so the next last 5 minutes, one more alert, if you, the one more alert would have come. As you can see, this is the latest alert. And now if you send multiple times, the alerts will be incrementing actually. Like 2 times I have sent now. So I should be seeing another 2 alerts here. See, I've seen another 2 alerts over here. And coming to the alert part, right? So here we can see some of the reports as well. Like alert, as you can see, like it will say which application is that and like what is the attacker IP, what is the target and all that. And even we can see some details as well, like what is the MD5 sum, what is the SHA-1 value, what is the SHA-256 value. We can see that as well. And even the malware confidence is very over here. And then if you want to check the report part, right? Report, we can click, like we can download this full report also. So, and we can open that actually. And this report will tell you about the file name, file size, file type, the SHA-256 value, the malware name and the malware confidence. So if you want to see the full report, right, like we can download this and we can open this as well. As we can see the report also, the full report also we can see. And the same report can be seen even on the malware files page as well. On the malware files, we can go here on the yeah, here you can see very high, right? Yeah, on the MEX side we can see very high. Here also we can see the same report, which will tell the file name, file size, file type, and the SHA-256 value, malware name, and the malware confidence. So here also we can download that report and see. And already we saw the traffic stats, and there is one more place where we have added this VX details is on the configuration report. So the configuration report will look something like this. We go to the configuration report and the IPS configuration summary, right? So we'll be getting something like this. So where we can see the value which has been added actually. So here then the VX IP address will be seen here. It is about the feature demo. So next go to the next part, there is a troubleshooting. So coming to the troubleshooting, right? So there's a command called set MEX curl verbose. So this is nothing, we have to enable this because whenever we enable this, we will be getting a vxdebug.out.log, which will be created and can be seen in the diagnostic trace. This is on the sensor side. And on the manager side, we have to take the ems.log and ems.out.log. So which will have the information of the VX details and all that. And coming to the help page, right? Like if you want any help on the configuration related to MEX, so we have a dedicated help page for the MEX configuration. So we can we can look for that as well. Like what all has to be configured. And coming to the UI level validations, we can see like if there are some errors, for example, if there could be some authorization issues, like the password may be given wrong. There could be one problem with 401 authorization errors, or else even we can see some of the errors like test connection is failed because like if they're supposing if the SSL certificate validation failure and if the SSL certificate is not deployed on the VX, then we can and we enable the checkbox, right? Then such issues we can see actually. That's it I had. Thank you all. I'll hand over it to Vidya for the next presentation.
Thank you, Sandeep. Hello, everyone. I'm Vidya from Trellix IPS QA team. Today, let's go over the feature called Device Manager Support in IPS Central Manager that has been introduced in 10.1 Update 10 release. So here is the agenda. The overview on why the feature has been brought in, the scope on what the feature covers, the applicability of the feature, followed by a short demo. Now let's see the feature overview. Trellix IPS Manager gives visibility to health and state of various devices like sensor, NTBA, VNSP, etc. on its GUI. And these details are made available in the Device Manager node on the Manager's GUI. Now coming to the IPS Central Manager. IPS Central Manager can manage multiple IPS managers that are registered with it. Also, the Central Manager provides an all-inclusive view for alerts and faults spread across multiple managers. However, before 10.1 Update 10 release, the Central Manager did not have visibility to the devices managed by the individual managers which are associated with it. And this particular limitation has now been addressed in 10.1 Update 10 release with the device manager feature being supported in Trellix IPS Central Manager as well. Now moving to the scope, the device manager in the central manager is included under devices tab, manager management node, displaying all the devices that are connected to each 10.1 update 10 manager configured with the central manager. The central manager also retrieves device specific information from all the 10.1 update 10 managers registered with it and provides a comprehensive view of device data to the user. And yes, the device data layout is also very much similar to that of IPS managers. The device manager grid also provides real-time visibility into device details. That includes general device information like system health, faults, deployment status, thus offering a consolidated view of all devices available on individual managers from a single pane of glass. However, there is no control on the devices from the central manager, which means it is just a read-only access from the device manager in central manager. That is, the user can only view the details and they cannot perform any sort of configuration like add, delete, edit, and other action buttons are not supported on the central manager. The generic group by, sorting, filtering actions are applicable and can be performed on the device manager grid in the central manager. The grid data can also be exported using the Save as CSV option. And in case the IPS manager is deployed in MDR mode, which means the manager disaster recovery mode, the central manager fetches device data from the active IPS manager and displays it on the UI. Now let's move on to the applicability. This feature is supported in central manager versions running 10.1, M10 and beyond. So the significant part here is that the 10.1 update 10 central manager will display device details from the associated 10.1 update 10 managers only. That is, if there are also lower versions of managers, meaning pre-10.1 update 10 managers connected in hetero mode with the 10.1 update 10 central manager, the device data from those managers are not shown up in the central manager because there is no support in the previous versions of IPS managers. Let's get into the demo. Here is the Trellix IPS Central Manager running 10.1 update 10 version. The device manager node is placed under Devices tab, Manager Management, and this is the corresponding right side view of the device manager node. So to this IPS Central Manager, I have three managers added, Manager 1, Manager 2, and Manager 3. All these IPS managers are well connected with the central manager. And out of these three managers, Manager 1 and Manager 2 are running 10.1 update 10 versions, whereas Manager 3 is running pre-10.1 update 10 version. In the sense, it is running a lower version. The device manager grid provides a consolidated view of all the devices which are attached with the IPS managers that are registered with the central manager. So here we see Manager 1 and Manager 2 and the corresponding devices. Manager 1 has just one device which is added to it, and that is being shown up here in the first row. Whereas Manager 2 has multiple devices attached to it. And so we get to see all the devices which are connected with Manager 2. So this is irrespective of the state of the device. Even if it is in trust pending state, all the device related information will be retrieved by the central manager from the respective IPS managers. The device manager grid has a default layout in such a way that it is always grouped by the manager name. So here we see that manager name is manager underscore 1, manager underscore 2. And that is how it has been grouped. That is how the grid data has been displayed. And the manager and the device column are locked by default and they can be unlocked upon the user's wish. So very much similar to that of IPS manager's device manager, here in central manager, we have all the applicable columns. We also provide the hyperlink support on the manager's name, clicking on which it will connect to the respective IPS manager. We also have the quick search option and clear all filters to wipe it off. We also have the manual refresh button here. Every time when the manual refresh button is being clicked upon or when the device manager node is being accessed, the central manager polls all the respective IPS managers and retrieves the latest data on the devices from those managers and displays it over here. We have the Save as CSV option here so that the grid content can be exported, and also the number of devices available in the central manager's device manager grid is being shown here. So this is actually a cumulative count from all the IPS managers, so which are being shown up here. In case we want to drill down to the details on a particular sensor, that can also be achieved. If I'm interested in viewing the sensor details, sensor_1, I just go and double click on this so that I get to see the information on that particular sensor here. The manager to which that particular sensor is connected, the domain under which it is connected, and things like that. All the other information are being displayed. So here we will not be having any save option. This is because the central manager's device manager provides a read-only access to the state of the devices. It does not let the user to go and perform any kind of operation. That is not allowed from the central manager's device manager. We can just view the details of all the devices which are attached to the respective IPS managers. And that is why we don't see the add, delete, edit buttons, and even the other action buttons over here in the bottom panel. Those buttons are actually applicable only in the IPS manager's device manager and not here in the central manager. In addition, we can do the certain column actions like grouping, filtering, and sorting, etc. So wherever it is applicable, it can be performed. And certain columns can be hidden, they can be enabled upon the user's wish. So in case a manager goes unreachable due to any kind of an issue, it could be a network problem or anything else, then the central manager will keep polling for a particular time interval. After that, it will declare the manager as unreachable. There is a particular timeout which is maintained for that. So when it declares the manager, when it is not able to reach the manager and pull the data, then we will be showing up the manager as the non-responsive manager over here in the bottom panel. So right now there's one non-responsive manager, clicking on which it will show the manager's details. So the list of non-accessible managers. So this happens after a particular timeout. So the central manager will wait till that particular timeout and it will declare the manager as unreachable, and that is why it is not able to fetch the data from that respective manager. So that information is also being shown here. And so along with this, we don't see the data of the devices from the manager 3. That is because this manager is running a lower version, that is pre 10.1 update 10 version. And that is why we don't have the support. So yeah, this is about the IPS central manager and the device manager feature which has been introduced in it. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Geeta.
Thank you, Vidya and Sandeep. As a reminder for everyone, Trellix Education Services offers exceptional training to go along with our award-winning products. If you would like to learn more, please visit the website listed on the screen to see all our offerings. Let's get our Q&A session started. I see we have several questions, but it's not too late to add your question. Please type it in the Q&A window to submit. Additionally, take a moment to fill out the survey. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated.
Okay, so I do see we have some questions that are in. The first question we have for the MVX feature. The first question is, what happens if a file is submitted which is more than 100 MB to the VX?
Could you please repeat the question?
What happens if a file is submitted which is more than 100 MB to the VX?
We are supporting file limit 50 MB on IPS. So that is our limit on IPS side. Beyond 50 MB, we'll ignore it.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep, for that. We have yet one more question coming in. How about the devices connected to the child admin domain in the IPS manager? Do they show up in the central manager? I repeat the question.
Yes, this IP Central Manager displays the data of all the devices from the IPS Manager irrespective of the domain. And the domain field shows the respective domain under which the particular sensor has been added in the IPS Manager.
Thank you, Vidya, for that. I see yet one more question coming in. This is once again for the MVX feature. When both Trellix Intelligent Sandbox and MVX feature are enabled, the file will be extracted by which engine?
The file will be extracted by Manish. A file is extracted on IPS engine and it is submitted to MVX file analysis.
Thank you, Manish. We have a question for the Central Manager. Does the Device Manager UI in the Central Manager get updated in real time?
No, it doesn't get updated in real time. On every manual refresh or when the node is being accessed, the Central Manager will poll each IPS manager and it will retrieve the latest data.
Okay. Thank you for that, Vidya. I have one more question that's coming in for the IPS Manager. Can the license configuration be made from the grid or the device details section in the Central Manager?
No, there is no provision for any kind of modification on the device information in the Central Manager. Even the info icon for the license assignment or an assignment has been disabled and will not be applicable here.
Thank you, Vidya. It looks like these are all the questions we had for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. And a big thank you to Vidya and Sandeep. As a reminder, the link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all the participants. This concludes today's webinar.